Let's go golfing. Right down the middle. All day. Bomb!
Did somebody say bomb?
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ty, and today in this video we're going to be talking about the highly anticipated film Oppenheimer, straight from Christopher Nolan and Universal. I know that I am a week late. Unfortunately, I was away this entire weekend. I managed to catch Barbie and put out a review for it, but I just didn't get Oppenheimer. So yes, for the Barbenheimer weekend, technically I did see Barbie first, only because I couldn't see Oppenheimer. But with that being said, I really want to start talking about this movie because I'm just going to be upfront with you guys. And I don't want you to just immediately dislike this video, hopefully, because I'd like to at least explain my reasoning. But I honestly was disappointed in Oppenheimer. I'm just going to be honest with you. About a week ago, I put out a video. It's like one of the most popular videos on my channel, actually. So thanks for, watching that if you've seen it. It talked about how I think Oppenheimer could actually be the best film of the decade, of the 2020s. I've seen a lot of people highly praising this movie. And that makes me happy because I still think there's a chance that that prediction can become true. But unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to reap the rewards of my own prediction because I didn't think it was that good. See, I don't know if I should talk about the good things first, just so you can see that I'm not just like a hater, because like I said, I was looking very much forward to this movie. Or if I should just get into the bad things so you can see my side. But I think I'm just going to start with the good stuff because it's just easier to talk about. Starting with the good, you have to talk about Christopher Nolan's direction as a whole. This movie looks beautiful. It's like something you've never seen before. I watched a video of him talking about this movie, like the way it was made, and he said that it's filmed almost like the way you would see things, like with your own eyes, and I could definitely see that. Everything looks super HD. I got the opportunity to see it on a big IMAX theater. I was pretty close. It was great. I loved the fact that there was like no CGI in it. All the bomb stuff was really cool. And of course, you have to talk about Cillian Murphy's absolutely stellar performance. See, the thing is, when we're looking at Nolan performances, I feel like actors are always bringing their A game. You have someone like Heath Ledger, who is having a more outlandish performance, acting all crazy as the Joker, and that's what you'd expect from that, and that's what makes it stand out in pop culture, and that's why it's so iconic as a whole. This performance is rather reserved, I would say. There's no crazy freak out. He's not, showing a lot of emotion. It's very, very subtle acting that I don't think, I don't mean to sound like this, but I'm just saying, I don't think casual viewers will really be able to get a full experience out of it and really appreciate, if that makes sense. I think I explained that well enough. I don't want to disrespect, people, because I know everyone can acknowledge a great performance, but I think that you really have to look and say, wow, I could never do that in a million years. He has this very calm tone to him that makes him just very believable as Oppenheimer. Do I know anything about Oppenheimer as a person? No. The guy's, dead. But with that being said, he was just very believable, like I said, as this character of Oppenheimer. You've got a lot of great performances. One standout to me, I know everyone was like talking about Robert Downey Jr., but I thought Benny Safdie, man, shout out to him. I thought he had a really great performance. He has this screen presence where, I don't know, he's very charming when he's on screen. I feel like the attention gets drawn to him, at least just from my perspective, whenever he was in a scene. And also, another thing that we have to talk about. I do want to give Robert Downey Jr. his flowers. He definitely stood out in this as well. Every scene he was in, he had this very serious, almost sense of like importance with his role. And I really give him a lot of respect because the hype really was built up and it was worth it because, man, he is definitely still an amazing actor, regardless of whether he's been, famished by the MCU or whatever you want to say, because he definitely can still act. The thing is, as much as I do want to talk about the positives, I think everything's been said over and over. But there's a lot of these positives that I've heard that I just do not personally agree with. I want to get into the negatives here. Why was I disappointed with Oppenheimer? See, the thing is, I'm actually not really a Christopher Nolan fan. I personally think he's overrated. But that did not in the slightest hinder my excitement for this film because I loved the trailers. And I still respect Christopher Nolan. I absolutely love The Dark Knight. I love Inception. I just don't really love some of his other films. The thing is, as things started to get going with this movie, I realized something. That being that a common issue Christopher Nolan suffers from was very much present in this movie. That being that the sound mixing was absolutely terrible. What do I mean by that? See, first of all, before I even go, whoa, I'm stuttering over here. Before I even get into that, I just want to say it wasn't just my theater, because I saw on Instagram and Twitter that other people were saying the same thing. The sound is off in this movie. I didn't hear about 25 to 30% of the dialogue coming out of the characters' mouths. Either because when they're talking, their words just get mushed together or start to become very quiet, or because out of nowhere, the swelling score, which was great, by the way, loved the score, I just want to throw that in there. The score will just start to overpower their words. And it's like, wait, what'd you say? What'd you say? It's like you're trying to listen to somebody at a party over loud music, literally. But they're just having a conversation. It'll just be like 2 or 3 people talking to each other. That definitely affected my experience, because I do want to say, like, oh, I could rewatch this film with subtitles and that'll give me, maybe I could give this movie a better rating. But the sound mixing still is a part of the movie. I can still critique the movie, because it's not like it was the theater. Like I said, it was the movie's problem. It's a flaw of the movie. Spider-Verse had the same issue. People were saying that in the beginning there was like sound issues, but it got fixed because there actually was a problem. But this was intentional. So I just don't really understand what they were doing. For that very reason, which, like I said, I think the sound mixing is what really hurt my feelings for this movie. I found the story somewhat confusing, especially as we got into the third act. We get into a very much talkative, dialogue-focused narrative, especially in the last act. But like I said, it's very hard to follow when you cannot hear what the characters are saying. I went to go see this by myself, so it's not like I had a friend with me where I could be like, hey, wait, what did he just say? That seemed important. A lot of the dialogue in this movie is very important. So when you miss something, you're missing a lot, especially because of the fact that there is a lot of characters in this movie. Another thing that I would say to an extent is a flaw, although I do know that this is based off of obviously a real life, scenario. It's based off of Oppenheimer's life. These were all people that are real, they're historical figures, and I respect that. But things just get a little bit congested when I just can't hear what they're saying. I'm just going to be realistic. I just want to sneak this in here really quick. I think that all of the bomb stuff very much lived up to the hype. Absolutely, 110%. It was beautiful. The suspense was unremarkable. I was literally gripping onto my seat, just watching this unbelievable thing unfold in front of me. The sound design, specifically for the bomb stuff, was very great. I loved it. Also, diving a little bit deeper into some of the pros, because I want to save the negatives for a little bit later. I think that I loved the way that Nolan showed how Oppenheimer was suffering after he dropped these bombs. Oppenheimer didn't necessarily drop the bombs, but he realized that he essentially ruined the world. He's the reason that people are dying and all these bad things are happening. Now we're at a strategic, very nuclear-faced war that's going to be ongoing for all of eternity. I loved the horror elements that were teased going into this movie, because I saw reports that it was horror-focused. In this film, there are some shots that are genuinely terrifying. Not jump scares, they're not anything like that. They're so chilling down to the bone, because you really see how Oppenheimer was basically processing the fact that the thing he made killed tens of hundreds of thousands of people. Even though he wasn't the one directly dropping the bomb, even though he didn't see it happen, he was responsible and he felt that weight on him. And that's why, this isn't really spoilers because this happened in history. He was almost trying to stop this from happening to an extent. I really loved that was a thing. Getting back into my flaws, because I think it does even out the video a little bit more if I just go back and forth. I feel like the star-studded cast, quite honestly, was not needed. What do I mean by that? I think it's perfectly fine to have 7 actors in a movie that are stars. You want to have like 7, 8, fine. I think there were legitimately 15 to 20 recognizable faces in this story. And I think that in a way, it almost took me out of the film a little bit. Because it was almost like cameos where I don't know why for some of these side characters, you couldn't just put a random actor in that wasn't recognizable, but that was easier to believe it was that historical figure. See, the thing is, when you have Jack Quaid literally in the movie for 30 seconds, I'm saying, oh my god, that's Jack Quaid from The Boys. He's in this for 30 seconds, playing a historical figure, which, by the way, he looks nothing like. I looked up some of these side characters, because like I said, there's a lot of popular actors, but some of them are just side characters, and they're on the screen for legitimately 60 seconds to maybe 2 minutes. I looked up the comparisons to what they looked like in real life. They don't even look alike. So I don't understand why you couldn't just cast somewhat unknown actors to play them so that I'm not distracted by the fact that, wow, there's so many stars in this movie. Like I said, I loved that you had Cillian Murphy, Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, all these actors together on screen together. But I don't know why it was necessary to have every single person be a star. It just doesn't make sense, and it just took me out of the film just a little bit. It's not a major complaint. I'm just saying that when I'm trying to just believe this stuff, I don't want it to look like I'm walking down Rodeo Drive in Los Angeles and I'm turning my head and I'm just seeing 800 celebrities. It threw me off a little bit. On top of that, the runtime, you feel it. 3 hours. 3 hours of this movie, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. 2/3 into this movie, this movie's been out for a week, so I don't think this is really spoilers, but 2/3 into this movie, the bomb drops. The Trinity test is, in my opinion, the best part of this movie. It's remarkable. It's unbelievable. It's amazing. But then the last hour, we get into this hearing stuff, like I was saying. And I'm not talking about hearing the sound mixing. I'm talking about hearing, like, the trials. And it just starts to drag a little bit for me. And it was very hard to follow along with because it seemed like every single piece of dialogue was so crucial to following along with the story. But I was missing a third of it. It's like 1 out of every 3 words I just couldn't hear. I couldn't hear when this actor said this sentence. And I was like, what did he say? And then I'm missing parts of the story and I'm not getting to enjoy it. The last thing I'd like to say is that I really do feel that at the end, it did end nicely. The movie did piece together well. And see, I'm happy that I got to sit on this for a day because I watched it 2 days ago. But I just think that the way you actually connect the pieces with what Oppenheimer was talking about with Einstein and how he is responsible, essentially, for basically what is the end of the world, even though the world obviously has not ended, that's very powerful. Did I think it was amazing like I've seen people just going crazy over? No. But I still really did appreciate it, and I respected it more than anything. And I hope that you could at least respect my opinion, because I gotta say one thing. I can see why people would think this is a masterpiece, and I 100% respect it. There are some epic, unbelievable things in this. Some really crisp dialogue. It's a great film. It's a well-made film. It's a well-structured film, but I just didn't enjoy it. Is that too much to ask for? Is that such a crazy thing to say? I just didn't have a good time with it. I was almost having a hard time with it. I was trying to process it, and I was just struggling almost to watch this movie. Not just because of the sound mixing, but also, like I said, I think it still even just dragged a little bit, and I am a little bit disappointed. With that being said, thank you guys for watching today. I hope you could respect my opinion, because I respect everyone giving this 5 stars, 4.5 stars. For me, I think, I don't know, I'm pretty sure this is 3 stars out of 5. I just didn't love it. I think on rewatch with captions, I can give this a higher rating, possibly, but I don't really see this going maybe higher than 4 out of 5 stars, so an 8 out of 10. Just not the type of movie for me. I'm more of a fictional movie person. This was very much nonfiction, which I expected. However, just didn't really sit right with me. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this video. I really would love to hear what your thoughts on what you liked about this movie, because everyone's saying they loved it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you didn't like it, maybe you agree with me. But with that being said, I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video.